Alright, hello everybody, welcome back. Sorry, something happened when I went off and then back on. So, I'm back and I am going to be doing an interview with former AWA, NWA, and WWF wrestler. He also wrestled on some indie circuit promotions. He is a Wisconsin pro wrestler. He is Tom Rocky Stone, also known as Steve Hall, also known as the Executioner. So, one second as we get him on in here, and then we will start. Okay, there he is.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay. Is your camera working?
I don't know how to turn it on. I mean, it was working when we were talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my phone, so I don't know what to do to turn it on.
I think one of the buttons on the bottom of your screen.
Okay. On the bottom of my screen, I see live chat and more like this. More like this just gives me videos.
Maybe tap on your
Do you want to
yours.
stop going live with Blake? No. Where do you want me to tap?
Tap on your screen and see if you get
I have
options.
I have a thing that says me, and it's got my little profile, but I tap on that, nothing happens. I tap on the smiley face, nothing happens. And I type on live, I hit on live and nothing happens. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm not an expert at this.
Oh no, it's fine.
You want me to hang up and try to reconnect?
Yeah, maybe do that and then we can see if it.
Okay, I'll do that and then I'll see if.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right. So how are you doing?
I'm good. Other than being old.
All right, so I'll start off by asking you my first question. When did you start doing wrestling and what made you want to do it?
My dad was a ring announcer in Milwaukee and Green Bay and Rockford, and I was going to the matches. and I became a heel fan. So I started cheering for Bockwinkel and Stevens, and I liked having the crowd hate me, and I thought it looked neat. So I decided, let's try it. I met a guy who was involved in some local shows, got on their shows, and then eventually when I was in college, I worked with Frank Hill, who became Jules Strongbow, and he actually got me my first real bookings.
Mm. What age were you when you officially knew you wanted to become a wrestler?
Well, I was watching it in high school, and I didn't start till probably my second year in college, so I was probably 21, 20.
Hmm. That's not bad.
And I was 25 when I first went out on the road.
Okay. Did you watch wrestling as a kid? If so, who was your favorite wrestler growing up, and who did you like try mimicking and whatnot?
I only started watching it when my dad started doing the ring announcing. I initially liked Red Bastien, and I soon became a fan of Bockwinkel and Stevens. And
Yeah.
I tried to pattern my work. They say I actually work more like Pat than Ray. So I work more like Pat Patterson.
Yeah. Who is your favorite wrestler to watch nowadays if you watch the business?
I don't watch. I haven't watched wrestling since 1992.
Oh, wow.
Even when I was working at the end, I didn't watch it. I have no use for what's on TV today.
Yeah. Who were your wrestling trainers?
My trainers, I went shortly to Luke Klein's school in Michigan Park, near outside of Detroit. After about a month, he had taught me a headlock. That's it. I came back to town and I basically trained myself. Frank Hill helped, and I worked out with Dick Reynolds and Frank usually.
Okay. Who has been the stiffest wrestler you have gone in the ring with so far in your career?
Leon White and Warlord and Barbarian.
Mm. Were you ever in school or amateur wrestling as a kid?
No.
Did they offer it as like a kid or?
Yeah, it was a high school thing. I wasn't into wrestling. I was into baseball at the time.
Yeah. What do you consider to be your weakness and strengths in wrestling?
My strengths, I knew how to work. My weakness was I didn't like weightlifting, and at the time I got into it, it was becoming a Hulk Hogan style body business, and that was never going to be me. So I was either going to be a manager or end up doing what I did, which was fine.
Yeah. Was it hard traveling from show to show, and what was the worst thing about traveling?
Nothing. I loved it. Because when we did it, no one had phones. We spent the whole time, no matter where you were traveling, you were talking business. You were learning the business. That's where you actually learned it, was sitting in cars.
Yeah. Who was your first opponent in front of a crowd, and how did you feel going into that first match?
My first real match was at the Chase Hotel in St. Louis. My first match, I wrestled Dan Diamond and Gary Young, and they basically beat the hell out of me. They gave me about 20 backdrops. The St. Louis ring was as hard as the road out in front of your house.
Wow.
And after they got done beating the shit out of me, if I can use that term, because they did, I walked upstairs and Pat O'Connor looked at me and said, "You got Brody on the next tape." And I went over to Frank, and he looked at me and said, "In case I can't afterwards, let me thank you now." So I had no idea what to expect. And I actually became friends with Frank. I worked him 3 or 4 times. He was not as bad as the 2 kids. But that's the way the business was. They were trying to get me to quit. But
Oh,
once you don't quit and you come back, then you become part of the fraternity.
yeah. What outcome did you expect to see from the crowd from your first match?
I have no idea. I just wanted to get through it. I
Yeah.
have no. I mean, it was the Chase Hotel. They probably had 50 people, 80 people, and you really weren't worried about the crowd. Wrestling on TV is completely different back in the day than it was working in a house show.
Yep. If you could go back in time and wrestle anyone that has passed away, who would that be?
One match, I
Mm-hmm.
wrestled him on TV, but I'd want to do it in a house show. Ray Stevens.
Yeah. Who is or was like your top dream opponent?
Or what?
Who is or was your top dream opponent?
I didn't really have a dream opponent. I mean, when you're breaking into the business, you take whatever they give you, right? And
Yeah.
then by the time I did that for a year and a half, and when I came home, I quit for a year, and then when I went back, I knew what the business was. So I didn't have a dream opponent. I was going there to get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to wrestle 35 guys who had some world championship belt.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
I mean, probably the guy who was the most fun for me was Nick Bockwinkel.
Definitely.
Because Nick would let me do things to him on TV and actually cover him and get a 2 count, which most guys didn't get to do on TV.
Yep. And you got to wrestle some names that most wrestlers didn't get to wrestle.
I wrestled almost everyone who worked in the AWA, and then I worked in Mid-South, so I wrestled everyone from Paul Orndorff to the Freebirds to Greg Gagne to Vern Gagne. In fact, I had the only time Vern and Greg teamed up on TV, it was me and Herman Schaefer. That was my first match in Minneapolis.
Oh,
And
wow.
Wally gave me the name Rocky Stone. He gave me the name Tom Stone because he didn't want Vern to know that my dad was his ring announcer.
Who is your top 3 favorite opponents from your career?
Well, I don't know if they're my favorite. I guess they are because I wrestled them a lot. They were probably the guys I wrestled the most. I wrestled Buck Zumhoff a lot. I wrestled
Yeah.
Brad Riggins a lot. And when I was in Louisiana, I was booked for a month straight with Jake Roberts. And then I got booked for about a month with Dizzy Ed Golden, who later became Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yep.
And I was actually the one they wanted me to help train him by working matches and leading him through them. And it worked out good because when I worked with Brutus when he was with WWF, they paid extra for him to cut your hair. And he would not cut much off. He'd cut a little off the back of mine, and I get paid extra money for it.
That's nice. Do you usually get along or become friends with most of your opponents?
Yeah, I really only had issues with one guy, and that was Leon White. And that was when he was a rookie before he was Vader, and he was stiff, and we were in Vegas. And unfortunately, I wrestled him, and I had to change dressing rooms for the next hour taping. And we got into it, and if Jerry Blackwell hadn't stepped in, I probably would have got my ass kicked.
Oh, jeez.
But the one thing you didn't want to do was let them know you were afraid of them, even if you were.
Yeah, definitely. If you could make a Survivor Series match, including you with 4 wrestlers from any company, Which wrestlers would you choose as partners?
What is a Survivor match?
So it's like a 5-on-5 tag team match, and it's in like a big. There's two.
Tagging, or are you just 5 against 5? Yeah, everyone against everyone.
Well, it's everyone against everyone, but it's in a steel cage with two rings.
Yeah, it would be simple for me. It would be Jake Roberts, Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens, Pat Patterson.
Yeah. Would you rather be in a street fight or death match?
Doesn't matter. I mean, they're all works, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I've done both on my local shows, so.
Would you rather be in a blindfolded match, handcuffed to your opponent, or a dog collar?
Just because I like Junkyard Dog, I'd say dog collar.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about Junkyard Dog. We traveled a lot together in Louisiana, and Buck Robley and Bill Watts called us Salt and Pepper. Well, one night we were driving through Chula, Mississippi, and he pulled into a 7-Eleven and told me to go in and get some sodas and beers and whatever I wanted. Well, we were in a part of Chula, Mississippi that no white man walked into any place. And he knew that. And he waited just long enough for me to turn around and have 5 big black guys around me before he came waltzing in and put his arm around me and saved my ass. And, after almost shitting my pants and sweating myself, he saved the day. But Junkyard Dog was a real good guy. So if I got to have a match, I guess I say dog collar match.
Yeah. Is there any piece of merch that you have or had that sold out pretty quickly?
No. I was never in a position to sell merch. I did have a book on Amazon, but Amazon pulled it down for some reason, and I'm going to redo it and put it back up again.
Yeah. Is there any time a fan has seen you in public and got like super surprised and or excited?
I don't know if they got excited. I was walking through the state fair one time, and Bill Johnson, a local DJ, recognized me, but it doesn't happen that often, not anymore at all.
Who is your favorite horror character and favorite horror movie?
Wow. I don't know. You're gonna have to let me think about that. I'm not a big movie person.
Yeah.
Can't think of anything. There's nothing that jumps out at me.
Okay. What is generally your favorite music to listen to in your spare time?
Country music. I've been a country music fan. In fact, I made all the boys listen to it when we drove.
If a movie was made about your career, who would you want to play you?
Wow. Who would I want to play me? I don't know. Brad Kilmer. I mean, I don't have any idea.
If you got to choose the stipulation for your match, what stipulation would you choose?
Get paid. See, what we did in the ring, whatever you wanted me to do, I didn't care. I was there. It was a job for me. I was a job guy. I hate the term enhancement talent. I was there. It was a job like going to 7-Eleven. I was there to do my job, do it well, and get paid.
Yeah.
And I had the respect of all the top guys, because if I worked with them and I was the heel, they would let me lead. So I had the respect respect of all the guys. So what match you do? You want to do a death match? Do one. You want to do it? No DQ, we'll do that. You want to do a lumberjack? We can do that. Doesn't matter. It was a job. It was like working at 7-Eleven for most people. It was a part-time job that paid really well.
Definitely. What has been the funniest thing a fan has said to you before?
The funniest thing that I ever saw in wrestling wasn't anything a fan said. We were working in Biloxi one night. Tank Patton and I were wrestling Ricky Fields and Terry Latham. And Tank was in the ring, and he had an armbar on Terry. And some fan in the first row yelled, "Hit him, Terry!" Tank dropped the hold and walked over to the ropes and said, "Listen, I'm the heel. I'll lead the fucking match if you don't mind." Went back and grabbed the arm and then yelled at Terry, "Hit me!" And I was rolling on the floor. I couldn't even get in the ring. I was laughing so hard. So that was the funniest thing that happened in wrestling. I don't think fans have ever said anything that have made me laugh.
Yeah. What has been a best fan compliment you've received, either like a show or out somewhere?
Well, the best compliment I ever got was something Al DeRusha told me last year. He said, "Bobby Heenan used to say I could get a piano over." So Al was the promoter up in the Minneapolis area for Vern. And I guess if Bobby Heenan said that, I guess it's true. So I guess that's the best thing I've ever heard. I mean, a lot of the fans who I saw at the AWA Fan Fest last fall, they all thanked me for watching me and stuff, but who knows if they even remembered.
Yeah. Which wrestler has given you the best advice and or compliment?
Well, I think the best guy at training in the car was a guy by the name of Stephen Littlebear down in Louisiana. I mean, he taught, him and Frenchie Martin taught me how to lead a match and how to call a match and how to go out there and figure out what the fans wanted and give it to them. And how not to get buried even if you were getting beat. And they were very, I lived in the same apartment complex as Frenchie, and he would talk to me down by the pool. And I used to travel with Little Bear when I wasn't riding with JYD.
Do or did you like being a heel or babyface more in wrestling?
Oh, I was much happier when I was a heel. It's much easier. It's much easier to lose and keep your heat as a heel than it is losing if you're a babyface. Because as a heel, I could lose and then spit on my opponent, and when he jumped back in the ring to get me, I could leave and go, fuck you, and I had all my heat back. You couldn't do that if you were a babyface.
Yeah.
But locally, I did do a Dr. X gimmick. I was a babyface as Dr. X. So, I mean, I could work both ways, but.
Yeah. Was there ever a time in your career you ever got kicked out of a wrestling show you were wrestling at? What would you do if a crowd member came out of the crowd and attacked you?
I had a guy that only happened to me. Well, it happened once locally. We had people hit the ring, and then all the wrestlers just kind of help each other and beat the shit out of the fan. It happened, a guy stood up in Jackson, Mississippi one night, and I didn't wait to see what he wanted, and I punched him in the face. I heard later he had a pen and wanted an autograph.
Oh.
I mean, I was never the guy they were there. I was, first, second, third match. They were there for the main event. So unless you were in the main event or the semifinal, unless you were Michael Hayes or Bobby Heenan, they didn't have enough hatred for you. You know,
Yeah.
those guys had to worry about getting out alive.
Mm-hmm. And it's better to be safe than sorry, because you don't know what could have happened in that moment.
Right, you don't.
If you could have wrestled for any wrestling company right now, what company would that be?
Right now,
Yeah.
well, it would be WWE because you make the most money and don't work.
Yeah. Out of all the companies you've wrestled for, which one has been your favorite?
Out of what?
Out of all the wrestling companies you've wrestled for, which one has been your favorite?
Probably the AWA just because I wrestled there the longest. I wrestled there for probably 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
But I was treated very good in New York. I got no complaints. I made way more money in New York. Kansas City was fun. I was just starting. So, I mean, that was fun. And they were all good. I mean, Mid-South, I learned a lot from Buck Robley and Bill Watts, and I learned how to book. And I actually liked every place I've worked.
Yeah. Would you rather join DX, NWO, APA, or BWO?
I don't know what some of those are, but I guess NWO. Just because they were heels.
Yeah. Would you rather join the Four Horsemen or Evolution?
I don't know what Evolution is, so I'll say the Four Horsemen. You got to realize
If you could,
I stopped watching in '92. Anything after '92, I don't have a clue.
yeah. If you could have any band or singer perform your theme song, who would you want that to be?
Well, the theme song I used locally, I used the Jerry Jeff Walker song.
Yeah. What is the least favorite wrestling move to have happened to you?
The least what?
Favorite wrestling move?
The least favorite?
Yeah,
Well,
to have happened
it's
to you.
one I wouldn't take. Bockwinkel and I were teamed up against Blackwell and Stan Hansen on AWA TV, and Vern wanted Jerry to put me on his shoulders and do the backfall with me on his shoulders, and I told Jerry I didn't want to take it. I was terrified of getting my ribs broke, so he power slammed me. Vern wasn't happy, but so
Yeah.
that's the one move. Now some of the shit they do today I wouldn't do.
Definitely.
But I was taught that if you didn't feel comfortable doing something, not to do it. So I wasn't afraid to tell someone, I'm not doing that, you know?
Yep. What has been the hardest move you have tried to do on an opponent before?
For what?
What has been the hardest move you have tried to do on an opponent before?
What do you mean hardest?
Like most difficult that you've tried to do on an opponent?
I haven't tried to do anything difficult. I mean, I've used the knee drop off the top rope. I've used the pile driver. I've used a flying forearm. But none of them were difficult. They were all things I just knew how to do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do something if I didn't know how to do it. Because what I was taught by Ray Stevens is that when you get in the ring, let's say I'm going to wrestle you. Your body is a fine piece of bone china. So's mine. We give it to each other. We give it back in the same condition we took it in.
Yeah.
So that's what I was taught. And so I wanted to make sure I didn't hurt my opponent and that I didn't get hurt.
Definitely. Yeah.
And that's something you don't see today. That's why guys get hurt more today. As they've started doing more and more ridiculous stuff, guys are spending more time being injured.
Mm-hmm. If you could take any signature move from any other wrestler, what signature move would that be?
I used a jumping pile driver, that would be the one. I first saw that when Bob Sweetan did it, and later more. A lot of guys like started off just giving it, but Sweetan did the jumping one, and then I stole that from him.
Yeah. What usually got you hyped for a match that you were going to be in?
I never got hyped for a match. I never got hyped for a match. They were all the same. You know, it was my job. If I could go out there, my job was to go out and get a crowd reaction.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter whether I was working with Rick Martel, Nick Bockwinkel, or Jake Milliman. As long as I had a good match, I was happy.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you got to wrestle with someone who, you know, I got to wrestle with Bobby Heenan one night. That was a dream match, but it didn't. Again, it was a job for me, so it didn't get me excited. But I wanted to go out and have a good match and show them that I could have a good match for them.
Definitely. What was your favorite thing to do after all your matches?
Get in the car and drive home. I mean, that.
What has been your favorite venue you have wrestled at in your career?
I think the best wrestling venue of all time was the arena in Kansas City, Kansas. And I don't remember what it was even called. But it was it was a round building, and it was perfect for wrestling. And
yeah.
the only time it wasn't good was when we were taping TV at the same time, because you couldn't get back and you couldn't get across the stage to go talk to your wrestler, so you had to go out blind.
Mm.
Which none of the kids today could do, because everything is pre-planned in the dressing room.
Yeah. Has there been any time you have accidentally broken out of your wrestling persona?
In the ring, no.
Have you ever gotten embarrassed Have you ever gotten embarrassed in a wrestling match due to a mistake or anything?
Almost. We were in Racine, Wisconsin, on a local show that I was running. And Jake and I don't know if you know who Jake Milliman is, Jake the Milkman. We were doing a Russian gimmick at the time where we claimed we were communists. And we had these red pull-away pants. Well, we were at the building like 3 hours early, and we started playing cards, and I had to go take a piss. So I took off my pants, I took off my wrestling attire so they wouldn't get a piss stain. And I put back on my warm-ups. And after playing cards for 2 hours, it was time to go out to do the match. I hadn't put my gear on yet. Had I gone out, I would have just pulled the warm-ups off because they were pull-aways. I had no clothes on under. But someone said, aren't you going to put your clothes on? Whoever said that, I fired him right after that, because it would have been way funnier if he had let me go out and make a fool of myself. That's as close as I ever came to that.
Yeah. What has been the scariest / most dangerous incident in your wrestling career?
Areas. Oh, it was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I wrestled Gene Lewis, and I was a babyface, and I went to do a monkey flip out of the corner, and he held on, and I took my own bump, and I knocked myself cold. Came back to the dressing room. I had no idea what town we were in. I had no idea where I lived. And Ted DiBiase said, "You live in Kansas City at the Pink Elephant," which was our apartment complex in Kansas City. I didn't. I lived in Baton Rouge. I ended up staying in the dressing room until almost 3 in the morning before I figured out where I lived.
Oh, wow.
That was the scariest.
Yeah.
I got knocked out 3 times in my career, once with Terry Gordy, it was my fault. Once with Gene Lewis, and then once in San Francisco with the Powers of Pain, and it was their fault.
Mm.
And I was not happy that I bitched at Pat Patterson for even booking me with them. I mean, they flew me all the way out to Frisco to work with them when I was a guy who they normally brought in to work with the Jake Roberts and the guys who could work so we could have a match. But no, they put me with the Powers of Pain. So those were the 3 times that I got, I'd say, injured in the ring. And they were all concussions.
Yeah. To take on to that question, what has been the worst injury you've gotten?
Probably the concussions. I blew out my knees. I had to work in Kansas City basically on one leg for 3 months. But back then you could do that. I mean, I just landed with one leg on backdrops and slams, and I had to climb upstairs to get in the ring. I couldn't just jump up in the ring. But if you didn't work, you didn't get paid. It was not like now WWE will pay you or you're under contract. No one had contracts. We were all there on a handshake.
Yep. What has been the worst pain you have caused on an opponent before?
The worst I've caused on an opponent?
Yeah, worst pain.
I broke a guy's collarbone, but it wasn't a match. He was trying out on one of my local shows, and I broke his collarbone.
Oh.
And his brother actually ended up becoming Trevor Adonis. He worked on TV as Jimmy Evans, and we traveled all over the country together for WWF. So
Oh, wow.
His brother made it, and the one I broke his collarbone, he didn't belong in the business.
Back then, if you got told you couldn't medically wrestle for the rest of your life, what would you do?
Well, I worked at the gas company at the time, so I would have just gone back to work. But it would have had to really been something bad. I had high blood pressure, but I got away. I mean, I never got stopped from wrestling. But if something had happened and they had said you couldn't wrestle, I mean, I could have quit. It wasn't, like I said, it was a job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the guys, and I enjoyed doing it and getting the crowd reaction. But if I couldn't have done it, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. What is the longest period of time you have had to stay out of action for wrestling?
Well, I never had to stay out. The longest I stayed out, when I left Louisiana, I had called Wally Carbo and said, I want to come home and work for the summer because I'm going to Portland in fall. And Wally said, sure, come on home. So I gave Bill Watts my notice, and I got home and I called Wally, and he said, oh, I'm sorry, we're booked solid. So I quit wrestling for about a year and a half. And then they started doing TV in Vegas, and Jake called me and said, you want to go to Vegas? And the minute I went back, I took Jake's spot and started booking everybody. And we were doing Vegas, 7, 8 times a year. It was a blast.
Yeah.
We were at some points flying from Vegas on Saturday and going right to wherever Vince was doing TV on Monday and Tuesday. So we were flying all over the country. It was, but I quit for a year and a half just because I got pissed at Wally and Vern, just said, to hell with the whole business. But then when we got to go to Vegas, that kind of changed that. And then I was going to go back to Kansas City, and they were going to have me do a manager gimmick, which I'm glad I didn't go because I would have starved. But I wanted to get in it because I figured as a manager I had a chance to get to WWF or Mid-South or UFW, whatever they were calling it. Yep. And the week before I was supposed to go back there, I got a call from the electric company, and they gave me a job with union benefits and health insurance, and I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, definitely. What are some of the wrestling championships and achievements you have won so far in your career?
I never won any championships except maybe my own. I mean, I used to run local promotions. I don't know if I ever had the belt. I know I had the tag straps. I knew I chased Trevor Adonis, when he had the belt, but I never wanted to win it. It was always better to have a baby face. That was when I was doing Dr. X.
Yeah. Do you feel like you are worthy enough to be part of like a wrestling hall of fame like AWA or such?
Now, not unless they were going to put the job guys on there, the enhancement talent. I mean, X-Pac did call me the best enhancement talent ever.
Oh wow.
I worked him only once, and he said that last year on Twitter. So guys that wrestled knew how good I was. You know, when Jake Roberts was doing, he had an eye gimmick. The match is on YouTube, you can find it, but they had blinded him. And so he asked to work with me because we had worked for a month in Louisiana. When he was in Louisiana with me, he had a broken arm, and I never re-broke the arm. And right after a week working, Tank Patton re-broke the arm. So I tried my best to be careful, you know, and I wanted the guys to want to work with me.
Yeah. Who are 5 wrestlers you would put into the WWE Hall of Fame that are not in there yet that you think deserve it?
Well, there's only one guy that I know is not in there that absolutely deserves it, and that's Ray Stevens. I don't know who the other 5. I don't know. I don't know who's in the WWE Hall of Fame, but I'm pretty sure Ray's not.
Yeah, he's not.
If you ask people like Nick Bockwinkel and Ric Flair who the greatest wrestler of all time is, they would all tell you Ray Stevens.
Yeah.
So he belongs in it if anyone belongs in it.
Yeah. What are 4 words you would describe your wrestling persona?
I don't know. I have no idea. 4 words. The greatest jobber of all time.
Yeah, that works. What are 3 things that annoy you the most in wrestling?
Today's wrestling. The non-selling, the absolutely ridiculous high spots, and the size of today's wrestlers. I heard there was a kid, and you probably know who he is. I think his name is Orange Cassidy.
Oh,
who puts
yep.
his hands in his pockets. I often wonder what would have happened if he had stood in front of Harley Race and put his hands in his pockets. Something tells me he never would have worked again. The guys back in my day wouldn't have put up with it. So today's wrestling irritates me because they have no respect for the business. You know, you go to a guy's show. I went to a local show here yesterday, and these little kids who are 150 pounds want to think they're wrestlers. And they can do routines and they can do some spots, but they can't even throw a punch that's believable. If you're going to pay money to go see a wrestling match, you at least want the illusion that it's an athletic contest. There's no illusion in today's. Which is why even AEW is still using guys like Arn Anderson and Sting, and I don't know if Tully's still there, but Tully.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys today they do more than we did, but it means nothing. You know, back in the day, you could have put a headlock on someone and you could make it mean something.
Yep. What are three things you like the most about wrestling?
I like the crowd reaction. I like traveling with my buddies. I don't know. Is there a third thing? That's pretty much it. I mean, I like the actual performance. I enjoyed traveling with the guys. And I enjoyed the respect of the guys.
Yeah.
It was nice to have the big names respect my work.
Yeah, definitely. If you are upset during or before a match, what do you do to help yourself calm down?
I was never upset or anything before a match. I guess I put my boots on and laced up my boots. I mean, we used to, back in the day in Kansas City, when I first started, we all played cribbage. That was the big game in Kansas City.
Yeah.
But I don't think I was ever upset before going out there.
Yeah. If you could wrestle anywhere in the world, where would that be?
I would have liked to have wrestled in Madison Square Garden. Just to say I did it.
Yeah. So you're from Wisconsin. What was it like growing up in Wisconsin and then getting to wrestle in your hometown with these big names?
Well, I don't think the people in the town knew who I was, so it wasn't. I mean, I always billed myself from Baton Rouge when I worked for Vern. Uh, I don't think the people remembered that I had sat at ringside at one time, keeping time and ringing the bell. I mean, yeah, so it didn't matter whether I was here because I was from Baton Rouge. I wasn't
Yeah.
the hometown hero. I was the Baton Rouge heel.
Yeah. What has been the best fan art you have received in your wrestling career, if you've received any?
The best fan, what?
Fan art.
I've never gotten any art.
Which wrestler has the best wrestling gear ever, in your opinion?
Well, Flair spent a lot of money on his. Austin Idol spent a ton of money on his. I guess those two. Probably Flair, because that was all his shit. I mean, the stuff today is all made by the WWE. They make all of
Yeah.
have their own seamstress. Flair had all his custom made.
Yeah. What is one top unforgettable moment in your wrestling career that won't ever go away, that you'll never forget?
In the ring or outside of the ring? I'll give you
From your wrestling
I'll give
career.
you both.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
my I'll give you three actually. My
Okay.
favorite match of all time was in Des Moines, Iowa. No, it was in Moline. I'm sorry. I worked with Jake Milliman that night,
Yeah.
and it was a card for Vern. And we went out, and rather than do an opening match, we did a main event match. We did everything that the main event was going to do. Probably pissed them all off. I know Regal was not happy because he had to follow us. But came back to the dressing room, and the referee looked at Jake and said, "Stone was really stiff out there tonight. I had been as light as I ever was. I had never touched him. And if the referee thought I was stiff, that was a pretty good match." Outside of the ring, we were in New York, when Ric Flair came in. And I had known Rick from back when he was training in the AWA, and he was driving the ring truck. I had met him, and we had sat by ringside and talked in Milwaukee one night. And we were in the agent's room in New York, and Rick walked in, and I was in there because Lance was in the agent's room, and Keenan was probably in there. Guys I knew, Rene Goulet. And Rick walked in, and I looked at him, and I said, as loud as I could say, I said, Rick, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since you were driving the ring truck for Vern. Now, here he is, 8-time world champion, and I'm remembering him as the guy driving the ring truck. Needless to say, Rick was not real thrilled with me that night. And then the third incident, this is the opposite, actually. I was working with Baron von Raschke, and I was the villain, he was the babyface. But I was going to be a good guy and let him lead the match because he was the old veteran. Well, he was giving me the respect. He was letting me lead the match. Nobody led the match. It was the worst match I ever had. It was terrible. Only because I didn't lead. It was my fault.
Yeah. Did you have to eat certain meals before your matches?
No. But when we wrestled TV for Vern, we always stopped in Black River Falls for a big breakfast.
Yeah.
We had spots along the way, but there was no particular meal. It wasn't like I had to have chicken or whatever looked good.
Mm-hmm. What is a go-to beverage for you most times?
When I was wrestling, it was Coca-Cola, which is why I'm diabetic. Now my go-to drink is Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I never drank beer, and when I was in Louisiana, I was drinking blackberry brandy one day, and I passed out at the bar in Greenville, Mississippi, and the guys drove me back to the hotel. And when I woke up the next morning, I had no hangover, and I've never had a drink since. So I've not had a drink since 1979 or 80.
Oh, wow. If you could get any tattoo, what would that be?
Well, I would never get a tattoo, but if I was going to get one, I would get a tattoo of Lake Tahoe.
Yeah. What is your favorite theme song from any wrestler?
The one that got the biggest pop was probably Junkyard Dog's theme song. And I don't remember which one that was now.
Yeah. What about a least favorite theme song?
I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah. If you could go back and revisit any year of your wrestling career, what year would that be?
Well, I'd probably go back down to Mid-South, so 1979 and 80.
Yeah.
Mid-South was fun because we had every Monday we were in New Orleans and get to go on Bourbon Street. One day I was drinking all afternoon. This is before I quit drinking. I was drinking Hurricanes, got in the ring, and I was refereeing the main event, Junkyard Dog and Buck Robley, probably against Freeburg, but might have been someone else. And Robley kept yelling, "Don't make him laugh, the referee's drunk." So New Orleans was fun.
Yeah. If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
A warning label? I have no I have no idea. Don't mess with my dog.
What are some things that you still are striving to achieve in wrestling that you have not achieved yet?
I'm not trying to achieve anything in wrestling. I mean, I've worked a handful of shows since 1995, but I'm too old now. I'm too beat up. The last show I worked was in 2012. I worked with Steve Carino. And
Yeah.
I found out that was a good way to go out because I broke Steve's nose. I knocked out a tooth of his. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I'd like doing now, there's a local guy who runs shows here in town, Frankie DeFalco.
Oh, yep.
And he trains some new guys. And sometimes I like to impart what I know, but sometimes I feel bad doing it because they're so bad. You know, like I said, I went to the opening match. The punches look crap. Well, that ruined the whole show for the whole night. I don't want to go tell those guys that.
Yeah. For Bruce City's Wrestling?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the first thing you think about doing to your opponent as the match starts?
First thing I think about doing when I was working was killing as much time as I had to before we had to lock up, which is why I loved working with Buck Zumhoff, because I would wear flowered trunks, and put warm-ups on. And when I start to take my warm-ups off, the fans would start catcalling and heckling me, and I would pull my pants back up, and Buck would start clapping, so we could get 8 to 10 minutes and never have to lock up.
Yeah. What would be your dream animal of having?
I have them. Siberian Husky. I've had 3 of them. I don't know if you can see my current one. This is my current one.
Oh, yeah. If you could entrance with any animal, what animal would that be?
I mean, go to the ring?
Yeah.
Never thought about going to the ring with an animal. Okay, I'll do this really stupid. Hawk's tag team partner, Joe.
I mean, yeah. That wouldn't be a bad animal.
He'd be a good partner.
Yep.
I could tell you a quick story on the Road Warriors.
Okay.
A little more wrestling. They came in to work for Vern. I couldn't tell you the year, but we were in Hammond, Indiana. And I called Greg up on Wednesday and I said, don't book me with him because I won't get in the ring with him. Because when they were in Atlanta, Ole used to tell him just beat the shit out of the job guys. Well, after the show was over, Hawk came up to me and, who the hell are you to not work with us? I said, I'm a guy with a job on Monday. Well, 3 or 4 years later, we were in New York, and New York used to have a bulletin board with all the matches on it, chalkboard.
Yeah.
And I saw it said LOD against Stone and whoever. I went and found Joe, and I said to Animal, I said, you got your chance tonight, because I didn't have enough pull in New York. And he looked at me and he says, Hal, you were smart not to work with us back then. So they were fine by the time they got to New York.
Yeah. What is your favorite wrestling quote?
Favorite wrestling quote? Billy Superstar Graham. He was wrestling Wahoo, and his interview was, "Rules, Marty O'Neill? There's no rules in a knife fight or in an Indian strap match. No rules."
If you could come up with your own quote, what would that be?
Well, it's not my own. It's the one I stole from Mad Dog. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. That's been attributed to numerous wrestlers. I know Mad Dog was one of them.
Yeah. Would you ever forgive your opponent if they injured you?
Yeah. If it wasn't done on purpose. Now, I will tell you, I told you about Gary Young and Dan Diamond beating the shit out of me on St. Louis TV. Well, when I was in Louisiana, I got my booking sheet for Loranger, Louisiana, and I was booked against Gary Young. And I had held that grudge for years, and I was going to get him in an armbar and go to kick him in the chest and miss and see if I could take out 3 or 4 of his teeth. So I was going to pay him back. He didn't show up that night. That was the only time I ever felt like I wanted to get payback. I mean, nobody ever really hurt me. Yeah, Leon busted my lip open, but that wasn't terrible. I blew my knee out a couple times, but that wasn't due to my opponent. That was just me. So, I mean, whenever I wrestled, the guys cared about taking care of each other.
Yep. If you could manage any wrestler right now, who would you want to manage?
Someone working right now? I don't know anyone working right now.
Well, you can choose someone from the past.
In the right circumstance, Jake Roberts.
Yeah. If you could have anybody manage you during your prime, who would you want that to be?
Heenan.
Yeah. How did your wrestling name come about?
My name?
Yeah.
That was from when Wally gave me that. And I'm pretty sure he was eating a Tombstone pizza at the time. And he needed to come up with a name, and that's how I think he got Tom Stone. I went up one day and said, I'm going to make it Tom Rocky Stone. And Wally thought it sounded like Rocky Stallone from the movie and said no, but I went to the ring announcer and told him to do it anyways. And from that point forward, it was Tom Rocky Stone.
Yeah. Is there any background or inspiration off of your wrestling persona?
No. I mean, not really. I was trying to imitate Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson as much as I could. And that was... So I was trying to take their persona, I guess. And I did get to wrestle Pat one night. We were at a sold-out crowd up in Minneapolis, and we had closed circuit TV on the next thing. Now, I don't know, you follow wrestling, so you probably know how Pat is, that he's gay.
Yep.
Well, we were in the ring getting instructions, and Pat looked at me and said, listen, kid, just remember, if I get behind you, you're fucked. I had to keep a straight face while he said that. And then when I was making my comeback, because I was the babyface that night, he was on the mat going, kiss me on the lips, Mary, kiss me on the lips. Pat was a thrill, and to do it in front of 20,000 fans and 6,000 next door was really neat.
Yeah. If you had to change your wrestling name, what would you change it to?
I don't know. I used Tom Paul Mendocino in Milwaukee. Uh, I thought about Mike Stevens, and then claiming I was like Ray's cousin or brother or kid or.
Yeah.
In
If
fact,
there,
we used that gimmick somewhere because we used Perfect Mike Stevens. So I was Mr. Perfect before Kurt.
oh, okay. If there is anything you would change about your wrestling style, what would that be?
There wasn't any. There's nothing. Because I was never going to be a high flyer. I mean, I couldn't drop kick. So I don't think there's anything I would have changed.
Yeah. If you went for your finisher or signature and it didn't work, do you have a plan B to do it right away after?
No, but my finisher locally was a pile driver, and I don't think I ever missed it. I used to do a flying form and then do a pile driver as a finish.
Yeah.
No, if I had missed it somehow, I don't know how I could have missed it, but if it didn't go right, we would have done something else. I would have just called it in the ring.
Yeah. If you could dump any type of food and beverage on your opponent, what food and beverage would that be?
I worked a match with Jake, and we did a chocolate cake match.
Mm.
I think I superplexed him into a chocolate cake, and we worked the rest of the match with frosting all over the ring. So I'll say a chocolate cake just because we did it.
Yeah. So say you were injured and you got a one in a lifetime call asking if you could work for, back in the day, return to AWA, NWA, WWF, and such. Would you take up that one in a lifetime offer even though you were injured?
It depends what it was. I mean, I worked one time. I had a sprained ankle. My left ankle was probably 4 times the size of my right ankle, and I just told my opponent, I can't run the ropes. When we get in there, grab my leg, drop an elbow on it, so I have a reason to limp.
Yeah.
Which didn't make him happy because he wanted to do all the running the ropes and everything. I couldn't do it that night. So you could get away with most injuries back in the day.
Mm.
I mean, again, depending, I could work with my knee blown out. I mean, I worked with a bad sprained ankle. So you could work with injuries. You could work around them.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I got a call to go work and I could stand up on my legs, I would go.
Yep. What has been the worst weapon you've got beat/hit with in a match?
Me and Jake were working in somewhere in Ohio, and he beat me with a belt as part of the finish. And the sad thing was he forgot to bring a belt. I had to loan him mine.
Mm.
So he had my belt, and I had to get strapped with it.
What are and were your hobbies other than wrestling?
Well, I was a big baseball fan. Way back when I liked bowling. And then I started coaching. When my kid turned 6, he started playing with 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds in baseball, and I went to all of his games. So by 1992, I didn't do much on the road at all. I mean, I would do a WWF every now and then because it paid really well. But by 94 and 95, I didn't work much.
Yeah.
I was really into coaching kids baseball.
Yeah. Who would you put in your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Well, I think you know that. Nick, Bobby, Pat, and Ray. And if I could add one more, I'd add Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
And that's only because those are guys I worked with a lot. I mean,
Yep.
hell, you could put Junkyard Dog on that from Louisiana. He would belong on that. Just for his overall persona, you could put Bruiser Brody on that.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, Hulk would belong on it. Randy would probably belong on it. I never worked on shows with Rick, but Rick was. I mean, Harley Race would have to be on that.
Yep.
I guess you need more than 4 faces.
Yeah. Would you rather wrestle Taz, DDP, Rick Steiner, or Scott Steiner?
Who? Taz, I don't know who that is. Who was
Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh, probably did. I would. Out of the ones you gave me, probably him. The Steiners were not as easy to work with.
Yeah. Who would you consider as like a brother and sister in wrestling to you?
Brother and sister. Well, Jake Milliman is probably my closest brother. Of the big names, I'd probably say Nick. And sister, got along good with Sherry. I got along good with Luna. I got along real good with Joyce Grable, so I'd say Joyce Grable.
Yeah. If you had one last match, a retirement match, now, who would you want it to be against?
Have to be a lot of walking and a lot of talking. So, and if you want someone still alive, Jake Roberts. No, Jake Milliman.
Okay, yeah.
Jake Milliman. Who I still talk to and still see once in a while.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I probably wrestled him more times and done more miles with him than anyone else.
Wow.
In fact, we actually thought that there was still a way to do one more match with Frankie Steele. See if you like this. We go out to wrestle each other. Now, Jake's 73, and I'll be 70 next year. But 2 young guys come out and say, "You 2 old fucks, you're stealing money out of our pocket. Why don't you wrestle us for your purse?" So I look at Jake and say, "Okay, let's do it." We shake hands. Jake starts selling, comes over to tag me. I walk out of the building. They get disqualified, so Jake gets his hand up. Jake demands a match with me on the next card, and then we do one blow-off match. I don't think I could do it. I couldn't take the bumps, but that's what we would do if we were going to do it.
Yeah. If you could wrestle or have a segment with any actor, who would that be?
Any actor?
Yeah.
I like Christian Bale as Batman.
Yeah. If you could guest star in any TV show and or movie, which would it be?
The Americans. That was my favorite TV show of all time.
Yeah.
You don't even know what it is.
No, I don't.
It was Kerry Russell and Matthew Reese as Russian spies living during the Cold War in the 1980s in Washington, D.C.
Would you have ever tried out to do MMA, UFC, or any type of boxing during your prime?
No, no, it was a work. Get my ass kicked. A buddy of mine locally had a karate studio, and I went in with one of his guys, and we had gloves on. He hit me in the nose, knocked me flat on my ass. I would never do that again.
When you were growing up, were you more of a shy, quiet kid or outgoing, loud, and excited?
I was always the captain of the team. I was always the leader of the pack, which is why when I started wrestling locally, by the second show, I was the booker.
Yeah. What was your reaction to getting asked to wrestle for NWA, and what was it like during your time there?
Well, actually, I didn't get asked. I asked them if I could come and work full time.
Oh,
And it was fun. We didn't get paid a whole lot. We made like $300 a week, but it was a good learning experience. We had guys in there, Bob Brown. We had, who were the two black guys? Butch Reed. I can't think of the other guy's name. He was a Canadian football player. Tom Andrews. Uh, Bob Sweetan. Frank Hill was there. The Turk. And Jerry Brown was there. It was a fun group of guys, and we made no money. I mean, we always said, would you drive all the way from Kansas City to Wichita for $40? I told you it was there. And we all said no, but we went every Monday night for $40.
yeah. During your times when you were backstage with Andre the Giant, are there any funny backstage or on the road stories about Andre the Giant? Because
Not in the dressing room. I will tell you that my first house show for Vern was in Chicago at the amphitheater. It was a battle royal. I was the last guy to get introduced. And as I rolled in under the bottom rope, or over the top bottom rope, Angelo Mosco came and started in on me. And Andre came over to save me and took him to the corner. And Andre was holding him in the corner, and I was hitting him. And Mosco was yelling, "Lighten up, kid! For God's sakes, it's a work." I mean, the adrenaline was rolling, and I saw Angie later in Louisiana, and he remembered that night. But that's probably my best story of Andre. I mean, I didn't really interact with him in the dressing room.
Yeah. What is one thing you would tell your fans?
Thanks. Nothing else. Thanks for watching. Thanks for enjoying.
Yeah. All right, so I got one last question for you. Do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
Frank has a school. How big are you?
Like weight and height?
Yeah.
I weigh about like 113 pounds, and I am 5'3.5".
I would tell you you're probably not big enough, but you might be in today's business. I mean, you know who you should call? Don't call Frank, because Frank will take your money. Call the guy who runs the camp down in, what the hell is his name? He does all of YouTube videos. Can't think of his name. There's a guy who runs a camp because Dave Hero's kid goes to it. I don't know if you know who Dave Hero is. Dave runs other shows in town.
Yeah, I know who that is. With,
Yeah, it's down at the guy's camp. I'll think of it as soon as we hang up.
Al Snow or Mr. Ken Anderson?
Al Snow. I would call Al and see what he says. I think it's too small, but guys today, I mean, today you can get away with being small, but I don't know if you can ever make any real money, and all you're ever going to do is end up crippled by the time you're 70. I mean, I didn't take all the crazy bumps, but I'm crippled anyway, so, well, I mean, I can walk, but it's hard getting around.
Yeah.
Now, you did this thing. Why didn't you ask me about Ken Patera and Saito?
About what?
Ken Patera and Saito at McDonald's.
I didn't know about it.
I'll tell you the story because I was going to tell Mick Karch's podcast, and we didn't. I drove them to Wausau. We worked in Wausau, Wisconsin. And we came home, and I dropped them off at the Holiday Inn in Waukesha. And Ken said, "Do you want to go get something to eat?" And I said, "No, I got to get home. I got to go to work tomorrow morning." So I went down and went through the drive-thru at McDonald's and got something to eat on the way home. Well, he came down after that, and they were closed. And he said, "Let me buy all the hamburgers you're going to throw away." They wouldn't do it. And he threw a brick through their window. Well, the next day, I get to work because I worked in Waukesha, and they said, "Did you hear what happened?" And I hadn't heard. I later heard from a cop, from a Waukesha cop, what happened. They had went to his hotel room, him and Saito. And Saito came to the door in his underwear, and Ken was in the bathroom, and the cops kept knocking. And finally, when Ken came busting out, the lady cop maced Saito. And then she jumped on his back like she was going to put a sleeper hold on him. Now, I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, it's all fake. You have an Olympic weightlifter and an Olympic wrestler. Well, because the cops did it all wrong, Saito and Patera ended up doing 2 years in prison. And the scariest thing was the next week was when Jake and I worked in Moline. And as they came through Saito walked in, I started humming the "You Deserve a Break Today" song from McDonald's. And he looked at me and said, "I thought you were my friend. Next time I get you in the ring, I hurt you bad." Well, the week before, I had done the same thing that 3 days later to Ken. I bought him a Big Mac in Green Bay, and he laughed it off. So I didn't think anything. I ended up taking Saito to court and picking him up at the airport and stuff. He never did hurt me, but most people want to know the true story of that. That's the true story of Saito and Patera going to prison.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, anyways, thank you for taking your time out to do this interview with me.
No problem.
It was a pleasure, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Okay, you too. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.